Hello and welcome to BA Brew. My name's Mike.
My name's Pete.
And I'm Debbie.
And today we're talking about Debbie's favourite subject, which is delivering value. What can we say about delivering value, Pete, that allows us to keep our jobs?
You mean other than that we're never to use that phrase in Debbie's presence?
Yeah,
That's what we can say
I've
about
gone
it.
wrong again, haven't I?
Yeah.
Where's Jonathan when you need him on a podcast?
Absolutely, which is why this is quite a nice one, isn't it? And I must admit, on many occasions, I've sort of said it on courses and then stopped myself and thought, imagine Debbie over my shoulder, saying, you can't say that.
I'm coming across here as a bit of a delivering value sort of police person, policing that phrase wherever I go, which is probably true, actually, now I think about it, because I am on a bit of a mission, as you guys know, that when we use the word value, we know what we're talking about and we don't overpromise, because that's what it's about, isn't it, really?
Absolutely. And I think you're absolutely right. I mean, the phrase delivering value is the hot topic at the moment, isn't it? We're almost being brainwashed by the media, and one of our colleagues, Jonathan, included a picture of a truck with the words delivering value. And it's just everywhere, isn't it? The people just can't help but use the phrase, but they don't actually think about what it means.
I think that's the problem for me. It's that, because, we work in an industry that, let's face it, gets criticised. I was looking at something the other day about the IT project Hall of Shame. Okay. That's a good look for our industry, isn't it?
Good name for a project.
Oh, it was just, and you read through and you just thought, oh, this is terrible. All this money's been spent, and value resulting from these solutions, well, not a great deal. And in some cases, maybe a few years down the line, but a lot of work had to be done to get there. And so in our industry, we are criticised a bit. So I think if we come out with phrases like, if we use this approach, we can deliver you value. If you go with our recommendation, it will deliver value. I just think, are we setting ourselves up here a bit, and shouldn't we be a little bit more accurate? Is that too much to ask for, guys?
I don't think so. No, I don't think so. And I must admit, obviously we're heavily influenced with your passion on value and service science and things, which is a good thing. Don't get me wrong. But I think we all kind of take it for granted because we all understand it. But I think you're right. There's so many people out there in industry that just use it. It's a strap line. It's a box ticking exercise, and they don't really think, well, what does this mean? Are we actually delivering something of value to a customer, or are we just kind of making ourselves feel that we're doing the right thing? And I think they're two very different things, aren't they? Yeah. Delivering something of potential value to a customer, well, maybe, but it's only the customer that can say that, isn't it?
Yeah. Well,
it's almost a sort of an over commoditization of a problem. So we sort of say, we go away, we do some work, we talk to you, we find out your problem, we go to a darkened room with some developers and come out with some solution. Not always developers. It could be other. We might have other people who are involved, but we come back with the solution. And because we spent the time up front with you, we know you well enough to know that's what you need. That's going to work for you. That delivers the value. And it kind of misses that sort of person bit that actually things have changed. That's a big problem now, isn't it? That we have said requirements done up front, and they change, so we may not be aware of the level of change and the individual changes as well. So what they want out of it may change. So it's kind of that's my concern really, is that we're sort of forgetting about the person a bit.
Yeah. But I think the other thing is that word value is great, isn't it? Because what does value mean? I mean, if you buy something and you don't use it, do you have any value there? Well, you could say, no, you haven't used it, there's no value, okay? But actually, sometimes for some people, that act of buying actually gives them something, some sense of something. So does that mean there is value? Do you know what I mean?
That's a really interesting point, because I looked over at my drawer there, because what you said there just reminded me of a present that my wife, I hope she's not listening in here, but my wife bought me
It's
some.
all right. Nobody listens to this podcast, Pete.
Nobody listens anyway. No, and you know, it was a lovely gesture. It was a high tech thing at the time, and it's still sitting in my top drawer 4 years later. So it's been delivered to me, but have I got any value out of it? No, not really, have I?
Well, not unless you had a space in your drawer that you felt, I need something in that
True,
space.
and actually that's a really interesting point, isn't it? Because you know what actually is value, and what is value, I think is quite subjective. What is of value to one person is not of value to somebody else, and people find value in all sorts of unexpected places, I think.
Yes. Yes, but I think you made a really good point there. The people find value, because actually that's the part of it where we have to say the recipient will judge the value. Because
Absolutely,
you know, I quite often say to people, if somebody comes up to me, you know, when I'm walking in the street or in a shop or something and says, I can deliver value to you, my first inclination is, well, actually, I'll be the judge of whether you've delivered value to me, not you. You know, you're just making empty promises. But in our industry, we do seem to sometimes think as long as we deliver a solution, that automatically there's value there. And I mean, come on, guys, how many projects have you heard of where a solution has been delivered and never, ever used?
Absolutely, absolutely.
There's an interesting thing there that just occurs to me, that we use the shorthand delivering value, or we're going to deliver value, but we don't say who we're delivering that value to. So we may not be delivering the value to the customer, but who's perceiving the value, who's actually achieving the value from that? Well, maybe we're actually delivering value to ourselves because the customer's paid for it. It doesn't matter to us if they use it, what they do, it really doesn't matter. As a company, we've delivered value to the company by producing this product, selling the product, and getting it to the customer. Whether they use it or not is irrelevant. And interestingly, just sort of on that theme, I too had a present, leaving present from my last employer. And I'll cut a long story short, but it's a banana suit. This could be the subject of another podcast, but the banana suit sits in its wrapping, and I haven't actually used it, so it hasn't delivered value to me. However, in the presentation session at work before I left, it delivered value to everybody who was watching me unwrapping this and laughing about this great present. So it obviously delivered value to them. It will deliver value to me at some point, but now I've mentioned it, obviously I'm going to have to wear it at some point.
At some point, I think so.
Not today.
Definitely, we're going to hold you to that.
I think the Assist Christmas party could be great fun this year. But just following on from that, that's really interesting, because one of the things that we have to do to co-create value, sorry, but let's actually look at the real situation here.
It's getting serious now.
It's getting serious. We have to understand what value means, okay? And interestingly, I wonder if a lot of your colleagues in that room knew what the gift was while you were unwrapping it. So actually, their sense of value was co-created right at the outset, because they were all sort of, oh yeah, let's do that, let's be in on it, sort of thing.
The value wasn't so much as the present, but the reaction of the people around and me to the giving of that gift. So yeah.
Exactly.
I think that's an interesting point, isn't it? Because a lot of organizations, they play lip service to this, and actually what they're doing is they're thinking of the value to their organization and not the value to the customer.
Yes.
And sometimes they even try and convince themselves that they're doing it in the interests of the customer. You know, all we're doing all is to save money so that we can provide a better value for service, value for money to our customers. Well, do the customers ever get to see that? Would they prefer to keep spending a little bit more and getting something of value rather than, you know, spending less and getting nothing of value? So,
it's interesting, isn't it? Because you come back to then sort of stakeholder analysis, don't you?
Absolutely. Yeah.
And, you know, if you think of customer as a very broad term, you've got your sort of owner customer, which could be shareholders, senior managers, whoever. And then you've got your consumer customer, who is the person who actually consumes whatever the product or service is. And they can have really different perspectives. And, you know, I read about a project a few years ago where it was deemed a success, and the actual end users, business staff thought it was great, but it didn't pay back enough of a return for the shareholders and the executives, so they actually canned it.
That's
Even
interesting.
though for one group of stakeholders, value was realized and they thought it was really good. So that's interesting as well, isn't it? Those different perspectives on value.
Yeah. Good old stakeholder perspectives as well. It keeps creeping in, doesn't it?
It's important. It's important.
Absolutely so. And I just want to mention something on courses. We often talk about the value chain. Good old Porter's value chain. Sorry, not to get too serious here, but I mean, on the sort of primary activities, if anyone is not familiar with the value chain, you've got things like marketing and sales and customer service. And I often pose to people on the course, you know, well, what is the value of marketing to the customer? And people always say, well, it's going to increase the visibility of our products and make more money. And I think, well, that's not value to the customer, is it? That's value to us, which is fair enough. But sometimes we need to turn our attention and say, well, what is the value to the customer here?
Yeah.
And it sort of challenges people to think about value in different ways, to how maybe they've had it encroach within them, within their organization.
But don't you think that, you see, I think with marketing, you've got so many different aspects, haven't you? And that market research aspect actually is part of that collaborating to identify where value might be eventually realized.
Yeah.
And if we don't do that research, any company, any enterprise, then actually, how do you know that you're not just sitting in a bubble? And, you know, inside your bubble going, oh, right, this is what's important to everybody. And actually, you don't know. And so in terms of delivering value, I actually said that.
Don't you mean co-creation of value?
That's it. You've trapped me into this now. You see, you led me down that alley. But in terms of value,
my job is done, Pete.
That's right. Your work here is over.
We have got that on the record, haven't we?
I take it back. But in terms of value and co-creation, we do need to get that understanding. And almost before we start rushing off and developing something or putting a procurement in place for a solution, because otherwise, you know what it's like. Once you set off down that path of thinking you know what's wanted and you've started to put it together, it's really quite difficult to unpick it and go, actually, when we did this research, that's not quite what people wanted. And what we're focusing on here is what we as an organization want. It's quite a tricky path, and almost that marketing, early market research, and in our case as analysts, that early investigation is just critical. Otherwise, you know, we could go down that do the thing right Drucker path, but not doing the right thing.
Absolutely. And of course, the thing is, if you do get it right, if you collaborate with your customers and actually get the co-creation bit right, then it's a win-win situation, isn't it? It's a win for the organization. It's a win for the customer. They're happy. We're happy. We're you know, more successful. They're getting more of what they want. It's a win-win situation, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah, and you've achieved so much more because you have delivered something effectively together. You've delivered something that actually gives them the value, and actually you've built a relationship. You've built trust and all kinds of things that help you to do that in future as well. So it's sort of, it can almost snowball and give you more and more success in the future.
Yeah.
And of course, what that suggests. Oh, sorry, Debbie.
I was just going to say that collaboration thing. It's also not just going, you want that? Okay, we can give it to you. Because as analysts, we've got a role to play in that collaboration to say, have you thought of this? What about this scenario? So there's something in the collaboration part of the value co-creation.
There is value in the collaboration part.
There's collaboration to deliver value.
Yeah. I mean, it's absolutely true, though, isn't it? I mean, a lot of people don't really know what they want until they see the art of the possible, and it is a collaboration. And I think you know, maybe there's another topic for another BA Brew on collaboration, working actively with our customers to identify new products and services and to deliver something of potential value that hopefully they can buy into and co-create. Did I get that bit right?
You said it, Pete. I mean, it's the way you say it, to deliver something of potential value. Have I got that?
I wasn't going to go down that path and get caught out again.
I think it's also important that when we talk about collaboration, which, as you say, we might talk about on another session, part of that actually really works is building an empathy with those people and really getting an understanding of what causes them the pain, what sort of things will delight them, and actually working through that will get you to a much better solution than just saying, well, here's your problem, here's your solution. Working together to sort of see what are the different options.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me a little bit of the early part of my career, and unfortunately I have been in my career quite some time now, and back in the day, you can tell how long, because I'm going to use a phrase that hasn't been around for many years, which is data processing.
Oh.
I used to work for a data processing manager, and the DP department, as it was called at the time, were pretty much determining what systems the business needed. And I think the whole thing with the role of the BA is turn it on its head and say, look, this is not the technology tail wagging the business dog here. It should be the other way around. But actually, a lot of the time, people identify, oh, yes, you need a new system to do X, Y, and Z, and therefore that is delivered to the business, but it doesn't meet the mark because the business wasn't really engaged to understand, well, what is it you actually need, and what is the value that we are looking to achieve here.
Yeah. Did you know, I actually worked once, I did some work, this was a long time ago, and this company no longer exists, but it was a company that sold a software package. And I was talking to their sort of solution development team to develop this package. And we were talking about requirements. And I was talking about, sometimes you need to elicit requirements. You need to think about tacit knowledge, all those great things to really uncover what the requirements are. And a couple of them looked at me and they said, why on earth would we want to do that? And I said, because that's how you understand what this customer really needs. And they said, but if we do that, our package might not meet their needs. So that's the thing we don't want to do.
Okay.
And on that bombshell, but no, that is a true story. I sat there as an analyst who is used to eliciting, really trying to understand. I think I went silent for a short while. It wasn't long, obviously, but I went silent for a short while because I thought, I don't know how to come back on that.
No, that's a very messed up way of looking at things.
True story, people, long time ago. But yeah, you do wonder if, at one point in our industry, if there was a certain attitude around that type of thing.
So I think we've really sort of we've wound Debbie up a little bit on the delivering value term, but I think we really ought to wind up now. And what I'd like to ask Debbie if she's got one sort of last shovel on the head of delivering value and to really finish it off.
I actually think ultimately you have to collaborate to find out where value might be realized, and it's only ever a might. I really believe that, because circumstances change, environment changes. You've got to collaborate during the development, because even small changes will come in during that time. And if you allow it to evolve and develop, then you've got a better chance of getting somewhere that people want you to get to. And then you've got to collaborate in that part of realizing the value. And you've got to understand that it's the realization that matters, because if you don't realize it, the rest of it is a complete waste of time. Yeah. And different people realize and assess value in different ways. Sorry, Mike, that was a bit longer than I thought. I started and I thought I'm going to finish.
We'll edit it down.
And on that bombshell.
Anyway, we probably need to wind up now because we need to go away and co-create some value for our customers. Thank you for tuning in. If you have any suggestions or ideas for future episodes of the podcast, please drop us an email at babrew@AssistKD.com. AssistKD.com. Thanks again and see you soon.
Bye, folks.